Let's start by understanding the foreclosure process. There are essentially two types of foreclosure processes that exist. We have a non-judicial foreclosure. Please write that term down in your notes. A non-judicial foreclosure. These are in states where the power of sale clause in the mortgage document allows the lender to foreclose on a property without going through legal proceedings. We then have a judicial foreclosure process where the lender initiates a lawsuit by filing a complaint with the court, and the court then determines if the lender can foreclose on the property. So non-judicial, no legal proceeding. Judicial, bank has to sue the homeowner. Now, if you want to know what state or process you land in, here you go. Now, here again, I want you guys to tell Michael, find where you live, what state are you in, okay? And I want you to tell me if you are a judicial, that is blue, or a non-judicial foreclosure state. Go ahead and type it in. And Michael, will you give me everybody's input? I'm curious to know how many judicial versus non-judicial foreclosure states we're dealing with here, and if we see one having a greater representation than the other.
Let's see, judicial, non. So far, 50-50.
Okay, keep those responses coming in, you guys. This is pretty simple. Don't make this harder than it is. The state that you live in, find it on the map on your screen. If you live in a state that is blue, you are judicial. If you live in a state that is gray, you are non-judicial.
Now we're going more to the non-judicial, so we're probably 65 to the non-judicial right now.
Okay. Now, my preference, just FYI, it is faster to foreclose in a non-judicial market. It's faster. And that's why the whole non-judicial process even exists, is as we were settling the West, people on the west side of the country were looking for ways and things that they could do to influence east side investors. So investors from New York and New Jersey and Florida. How can we get those people to invest in westward properties and lend money over here so we can get the economy primed up over on the west side of the country? So they came up with this non-judicial foreclosure process, which would cut down the time it takes to foreclose by 6, 8, even 12 months in many markets. So be aware that the average time that it takes to foreclose in a non-judicial market is roughly 4.5 to 6 months. Gray state. If you are in a blue state, it takes on average 12 to 18 months to foreclose in the states that are blue. Now, we teach this a lot when we're talking about loan origination, when we're talking about buying mortgage paper, because if I'm going to buy a loan in some state, I'm buying it in a gray state, because if the borrower defaults, I can get my money back faster. So some of these blue states, I mean, Florida, 18 to 24 months minimum to get a foreclosure completed in the state of Florida. New York and New Jersey are not much better, but let's break the process down, okay? Now again, this varies by state. So all you guys would need to do is just Google what is the foreclosure timeline in the state of, and then put in your state, and you can know exactly what your process looks like. The judicial process, they use a state court system during the foreclosure. The homeowner carries the deed. The default is recorded at the county courthouse. The bank investor must go through the courts before foreclosure can be initiated. The court verifies the default status, sends homeowner the notice of default, and in most states, the homeowner has 60 days at this stage in the process before the home is sold at public auction. In a non-judicial process, and you can see the other side, we use a trustee to process the foreclosure. The courts are not required. There's a beneficiary or an investor who carries the deed. The default is recorded at the county recorder's office or the county courthouse. The bank investor does not have to go through courts to initiate the foreclosure process. There is no notice of default required, and you may send a notice of trustee sale notification. And in most states, the homeowner has 22 to 30 days at this stage in the process before the home is sold at foreclosure or public auction. Now, the non-judicial foreclosure process and timeline, I'm going to put this all up on your screen so you guys can see it all at one time. The time frame is pretty simple. If you are a homeowner that is current on your payments, okay, and you miss your payment in 30 days, so you've got 30 days, well, you got 29 days to make your payment, you're late on the 30th day. So you go to the 30th day, first thing they're going to do is send you a nastygram and say, hey, you need to pay us money. If you don't pay, it goes to a 60-day, then you go to 90 days delinquent. It's then referred to a foreclosure. It goes to the loss mitigation department, and then the process continues. Now, I'm going to open up all of these things so you can see them all in one slide. And then I'm going to pause here momentarily and talk through it, okay? Now, again, in the non-judicial foreclosure process, the legal notice is really what puts everyone, including the general public, because this is when it becomes public record, is the filing of the notice of default. Notice of default is public, so you can literally go to any of those gray states and you can go to the county recorder's office and you can ask them for a list of all of the notices of default that exist in your county. And you can do, in most states, do this online, so you can research the information online. Now, there are some states that are still relatively archaic in their use of technology, and my opinion, my preference is the counties where they're not online. Because if you live in a county where the information is not available via the computer, it means nobody from outside of your market can get the information without physically going down there and getting it, or paying somebody else for the service who is going down there to get it. So don't think that just because it's not available online that you are a disadvantage. In my opinion, you are an extreme advantage because the information is harder to get. That's not a problem. Once the notice of default is filed, there's a 90-day countdown, which then leads to the filing of a notice of trustee sale. Now, this is not required, but you can either do a notice of default, which is a 90-day notification, or you can do a notice of trustee sale, which is a 21-day notification. The requirement is that the sale be published in a newspaper publication that is circulated in the county where the property is located. Now, smaller counties, they're just going to put them in the local newspaper. Bigger counties, for example, in Cook County, Nevada, or Clark County, Nevada, they have the Nevada Legal News. And it is a legal publication specifically for notices of default and notices of sale. In my market, for example, they're going to be found in the Journal of Business as opposed to in the Salt Lake Tribune or the Spokane, what's the Spokane newspaper? The Spokane Tribune?
No, Spokesman Review.
Spokesman Review, that's it, okay?
You're really throwing
I know. If you guys will look, just look at your local newspaper. What you're looking for is legal notices, specifically notice of default or notice of trustee sale. Okay. Now, after it's been published for that 3 consecutive weeks, the sale will be set and the auction will be held. Now, until this thing goes to foreclosure and the crier, the public crier, says going once, going twice, sold 3 times, the property either reverts to a third-party bidder, you, or it reverts back to the beneficiary and becomes a bank-owned property. Until it is sold, it can be postponed. They can file bankruptcy. They can amend it. They can modify it. They can sell it. They can reinstate it. They can bring it current through financing. And these are the types of strategies that we're going to be talking more about this evening, because in many markets you have to have all cash to go to a foreclosure sale and bid. And I know that the greater majority of you probably don't have a couple $100,000 laying around that you can go down to the county courthouse and bid openly at a public auction. Now, my intention is to get you to a place where you have the liquidity that you could physically go down there and do that. But until we do, we're going to use pre-foreclosure strategies to build up our cash reserves so that in the event that we have to go to the auction to buy, we will have the cash that we need to do that.